This is the 5 tech things you should know about, brought to you by Citrix and GoToAssist Express. Hackers have been going after our data for 5 years, probably more than that, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to talk about that and a whole bunch more right now. Hey everybody, Jeffrey Powers. Welcome to the 5 tech things you should know about for you weekend warriors in tech that don't want too much information overload. Let's get into your 5 tech things you should know about for this week. I use Internet Explorer. I love Internet Explorer. Explores everything. There was a survey out by a company called Apiquant, which really wasn't a company. It was more of just a joke. And basically they said, if you use Internet Explorer, then you're not too bright. But if you use the Opera browser, oh my God, you're like Einstein right there. Well, I didn't buy it. And when I saw it for Geeksmack, it's like, you know, this isn't really news, and I bet you they can find a whole bunch of fails in this, and it's probably some small 300-person audience, and so on and so forth. So I didn't even use it. Well, it turns out that it wasn't even a real survey. It was just a fake. The guy just did it as a joke, and everybody took it seriously. Nobody really bothered to check facts or something like that and said, okay, well, it's a news story. Let's post it. And the next thing you know, it goes here, 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 and here. Brings up a very interesting point. How are we getting our news nowadays? Are we just relying on somebody that's just going to come up with some sort of internet meme out there? Or are they going to actually get actual factual information? Anybody can do a survey. I can walk up and down a street and create a survey. But that's a survey of everybody that's on that street. Doesn't mean it could be the street in the richest part of the neighborhood. It could be a street in the poorest part of the neighborhood. If it's not to my target audience, I go to an audience that's not the target, and then I can make up my own data. So we can manipulate data left and right and up and down and all around, and you all know that. But the question is Internet Explorer a smart or dumb browser? The reality is it's a browser, and it's getting better. Just like Firefox, just like Chrome, just like Opera. I do have to admit, though, if you do use Opera, then you think, I would guess, that you would like it a lot more than Firefox, Chrome, and Internet Explorer, which are the top 3 browsers nowadays. And then, of course, Safari, which I really don't care for myself because it's always been problematic. So I have to use it on my iPhone, but I don't use it on my Mac. I use Chrome for now. Maybe I'll switch to Opera. I've always liked the Opera browser, especially that fish tank application. RIM announced some new Blackberries out there. Of course, they're kind of faltering a little bit because of the whole iPhone, Android issues nowadays. You know, remember, 5 years ago, Blackberries were very much sought after by the business community. In fact, when I worked as an IT administrator, I would get all of these people that would want to have a Blackberry more than any other type of phone. But of course, this was before the iPhone came out. This was before the Android came out. Well, BlackBerry has been really trying to get their base back. It's like, come back to us, come back. We got it. We've got it. We've got the smartphone. We were a smartphone before smartphones were smartphones. Well, now that they came out within their conference, they showed off the BlackBerry 7 OS, and they came out with 2 new models, the BlackBerry Bold 9900 and the 9860. They're incredibly thin, and they're pretty good in size and functionality. Of course, they haven't gone through their paces yet, so we'll kind of see what happens there. If people really get to like the BlackBerry, or if they decide, you know, I like my iPhone. I've switched to my iPhone. I'm staying with my iPhone. I like my Android. I'm staying with my Android. But of course, then again, people switch phones like they switch, I don't know, flavors of ice cream. Ooh, I could use some ice cream right now. Did the moon have a moon? Scientists believe so. They believe thousands of years ago, the moon actually had a second moon, or we had a second moon circling the planet, kind of like, you know, Jupiter has 6 moons, and Uranus has so many moons, and Mars has moons, and so on and so forth. We had 2 moons. We might have had more moons years and years ago, maybe even before the Ice Age. That could have been, you know, the moon could have been the one thing that fell to the Earth and caused the Ice Age. Probably not, but most likely. Scientists believe that by actually studying the moon's contours, that they believe that the other side of the moon, I guess the dark side of the moon, where Pink Floyd is, there's a bunch of craters and a bunch of bunch of hills and valleys that they would explain as a second moon crashing into this moon. Pretty interesting stuff. Of course, we don't have any empirical data. We don't have nothing tangible that there was a second moon here. It's just that scientists, from their data, from their collections, have come up with this fact that there was a second moon. I wouldn't be too surprised that during the Ice Age we had 17 moons, 23 moons, or whatever. You know, things happen during life of anything, life of planets, life of people, life of the sun, life of the Starship Enterprise. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you something. I'm pretty impressed by the fact that they've extrapolated this type of content. Now, they either figure that it was a second moon or it was a big asteroid that hit the moon at one point in time. So we'll find out. I suppose if as time goes on, they'll research it more and they'll research it more and they'll become more conclusive on it and they'll say, okay, yeah, it definitely was a moon. That would have been cool. We get some moon rocks of moon rocks. Ooh, that's kind of contradictory, right? Anyway. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the 5 things that I learned this week, and it's brought to you by Stitcher. Go over to Stitcher.com/geek, enter in your email address, download the application free of charge for the iPhone, the Android, the WebOS, or the Blackberry. Yeah, the Blackberry as well. And you could have a chance to win up to $100. That's by going over to Stitcher.com/geek, enter in your email address, and good luck in winning $100. Now let's get into the 5 things that I learned this week. Number 5, goodbye to Hightower, Bubba Smith. The football player turned actor passed away. He was 66 years old. Number 4, Captain Kirk is getting his own roller coaster. It'll be ready in 2014 and costs about $1.5 billion. The only problem is you'll have to fly to Jordan to ride it. King Abdullah II is building this ride for his amusement park, and of course the biggest amusement for him will be the legions of fans that will be salivating to ride it. You need a passport to ride this ride, not height. Okay. Number 3, Google announces a change in their search to now include Google+. So when you do a search, you'll start seeing a dancing squid.gif at the top of all results. That's the squid. Number 2, the tree from the Shawshank Redemption is in Ohio. I know this because apparently it was struck by lightning this last week and is not doing too well. They're working very hard to save the tree. And the one thing that I learned this week, Randy Zuckerberg is leaving Facebook to start her own company, which shows that even Mark's sister knows when to leave a sinking ship. And those are the 5 things that I learned this week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Skype is moving to VP8. It was a Google codec that we learned about a few months ago that a lot of people had concerns because it was an open source codec and there were a lot of lawsuits and so on and so forth. They got that all worked out, I believe, because now Skype is working with the new version, with their Skype version for Windows, version 5.5, and doesn't say for Mac just yet. So if you've got a Mac, you're pretty much out. What does that mean? That means that they're working in VP8 with the WebM protocol, so that's possible that Skype might be competing more on the level of the Google Hangout for Facebook and actually be able to do multiple video H.264 type content so you can have a better experience on your chat, video chat, whatever you want to call it. So pretty interesting stuff. I can't wait to see what happens with Skype once it comes out. I don't think it's out just yet, but when it does, we will let you know, and we'll give you a review over there. But in the meantime, Skype's going to be making some major changes, so watch out for that. Of course, the 5 tech things you should know about is brought to you by our friends over at Citrix and Go to Assist Express. Great program to be able to connect up to somebody's computer and fix their problems without having to drive to them, without having to set up a time. You just basically, they call you up and say, hey, there's a problem with my computer, whether it be a Mac or a PC, and you go, okay, well, just get onto your internet and then put in this, go to this web page, put in this 9-digit number, and then all of a sudden, poof, I can see that person's machine. That person can see my machine if I wanted them to. I can control that person's machine. That person can control my machine if I wanted them to. It's the power of GoToAssist Express. It's a great power to have, something to have into your IT toolbox. If you're in training, it's something great to have in your training toolbox too, simply because of the fact that you can get onto a web GoToAssist session and you can train them. You can install a piece of software and then show them how to use it without having to go to them. It's a great thing, especially if you've got remote satellite offices or if you're traveling yourself. That way you're not giving your business to somebody else. That's the power of GoToAssist Express. And the best thing is, we at the 5 Tech Things You Should Know About are going to give you a 30-day free offer. All you have to do is go over to gotoassist.com/podcast. gotoassist.com/podcast, and you'll get a 30-day free trial of this great software. Love it, and I've been using it for the last few years. It's the greatest thing since the internet, really. gotoassist.com/podcast for that 30-day free trial over at GoToAssist. We've always dealt with hackers for more than 15, 20 years now. Anybody that's put together something, somebody's tried to take it apart, somebody's tried to extrapolate data and get more information. As we use the internet more, we get more people that do that try and hack in and get data. Of course, they might be doing it for monetization. They might be doing it for other reasons. There's many different reasons, I suppose, politically inclined, getting a news story, and just finding out information about somebody, getting Paris Hilton's phone number, I suppose, if you want it. But apparently they found in the McAfee found in the last 5 years that somebody's been infiltrating the computer systems and pulling off a significant amount of data. They're not sure where it's coming from. They believe that it's coming from Asia or Europe, somewhere in that area. So it's Eastern Europe, that is. So McAfee wrote this 14-page report on Wednesday where they basically said that it basically represents what they said as a massive economic threat because they don't know what type of data that they've collected in the last 5 years. If there's any, especially if you've been on the internet for 5 years and have used the same password for 5 years, remember, that's 2006. What were you doing in 2006? Change your passwords. Change your information and change things up a little bit. Maybe if you get an opportunity, implement a different email address. That's always a great way to change things around. If you don't want to change your email address, that's totally understandable. But, you know, these are just some things that I'm suggesting. And a password, think of a password as 2 words, like little dog. Put a number in there, put a couple little symbols like maybe the @ sign or the $sign. Maybe call it little dogs. And at the end for the S, you use the $sign instead of an S. Use capital letters, use lowercase letters. The more characters you have, the more that it's not one word. And that's the important thing because it's they have what are called dictionary attacks, where they pull your information as they search through the dictionary for passwords. If you make your passwords more complex, they'll have a harder time, and they won't want to go for the harder time passwords. They'll want to go for the easier time passwords. And then set up a tiered password. I know you don't want to have like 5,000 passwords for 5,000 different websites. But think of it this way. You have an easy password website, you have a mild password website, and you have different passwords website. If you use banking software or web software, use a username and password that you don't use on any other website. If you have a PayPal address, use a password that you don't use on any other website. Tier up your passwords at least. That way, if they get to the first level, they can't get to the second level. And don't make the password very similar. So your first tier password is doggy. Your second tier password is doggy12. Don't do it that way. Do it where you have doggy for your main password. Your secondary password is, I don't know, Geekazine cabinet. I don't know, things like that. Make them different. Don't make them obvious, and you'll be pretty safe out there. In the meantime, they're still assessing what's going on with this data breach, and hopefully there's not some major information. And we're not talking username, passwords, and social security numbers. We're talking government data here. So it's pretty scary stuff, and we'll keep an eye on it and let you know more. Of course, that's the 5 tech things that you should know about. Did you like the show? Did you not like the show? Please go into iTunes. Please go into your Roku box, your Boxy box, your Apple TV, your Google TV, and give us some stars. Give us some ratings. Give us some comments on what you like, what you don't like about the 5 tech things that you should know. I don't get offended. Trust me. I love the negative comments more than I love the positive because I can learn from the negative. Got a question? Let me know over at Geekazine on Twitter or geekazine@gmail.com. Of course, I do have the hotline at 608-205-4378. And then, of course, you can get me on Google+. I'm on the internet. Go find me. Jeffrey Powers is my name. So, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for listening. We will see you next time on the 5 tech things you should know about. Take care. Of course, Go to Assist is brought to you by the 5 Tech Things. Wait, what?